The desert stretched like an endless ocean of golden sand. Heat waves rose from the ground, blurring the horizon. In the middle of this lonely land, a small team of explorers worked under the burning sun. They had been following old maps and strange stories told by the people who lived near the desert. The stories spoke of forgotten ruins buried deep under the sand, ruins that no one had touched for thousands of years. At the front of the group was a man named Amir. His eyes were sharp, and his steps were steady, even though the heat pressed down on him like a heavy hand. He was not a soldier or a king. He was a seeker of history, a man who wanted to know the truth about old times. Beside him walked a young woman named Myra, who carried tools and scanned the ground with a small device. Myra was skilled with machines, but she also had a heart full of wonder. Every broken stone she found felt like a gift from the past. That morning, the team discovered something different. Buried beneath the sand, half hidden, was a circle of stones that did not belong to the desert. The stones were dark and smooth, unlike the rough rocks around them. Amir and Myra cleared the sand with their hands and brushes until a shape slowly appeared. It was a doorway made of stone, leading downward. The air around the doorway felt cooler. When Myra touched the stone, she felt a strange vibration under her fingers. "This is not natural," she whispered. The others nodded in silence. The team set up lights and ropes. Step by step, they moved down into the opening. The passage was narrow, but the walls were covered in carvings. At first, the carvings looked like animals and people, but as the explorers moved deeper, they saw stars, planets, and strange shapes that looked like ships sailing through the sky. Myra pointed at one of the carvings and said softly, "These are not from here. These show the heavens." At the end of the passage, they reached a chamber. The chamber was larger than any room they had seen in the desert ruins before. In the center stood a pedestal made of black stone, and on top of it lay a mask. The mask was carved from jade, green and smooth, with lines that shimmered faintly. It looked like the face of a man, but its eyes were empty and deep. Even in the dim light, the mask seemed alive. The team gathered around it. Amir felt his chest tighten as he looked at the mask. Something inside him told him this was not only a treasure of the past but also a message. Slowly, with steady hands, he lifted the mask from the pedestal. The moment he touched it, the mask gave off a soft glow. A pulse of green light spread across the chamber, running along the carvings on the walls. The explorers gasped as the light moved outward, up through the passage, and into the sky. Far above, in the quiet of space, the signal traveled like a wave. It moved faster than human eyes could see, reaching out beyond the moon, beyond the planets, into the dark sea of stars. Somewhere in that endless dark, something stirred. Amir lowered the mask, his hands shaking. "Did you feel that?" he asked. Myra nodded. Her face was pale, but her eyes shone with excitement. "It is not just stone," she said. "It is speaking." The team carefully carried the mask out of the chamber and into the sunlight. For a moment, the desert seemed silent, almost watching them. Amir looked at the horizon, wondering if they had opened a door that was never meant to be opened. Yet he could not deny the fire that now burned in his heart. He had spent his life chasing old secrets, but this was different. This was bigger than history. That night, as the team rested near their camp, Amir sat awake with the mask in his lap. The jade surface reflected the light of the moon. As he studied its hollow eyes, he thought he heard whispers, soft and distant, like voices carried by the wind. He could not understand the words, but they seemed to call Earth the lost home. The desert was quiet, but far away, beyond the reach of human sight, a dark ship turned toward the signal. It began to move, slow at first, then faster, drawn toward the small blue planet where the mask had awakened. Amir closed his eyes, not knowing what he had started. For him, the mask was still only a mystery, but the universe had already begun to answer its call. The mask lay inside a secure glass case in the research base, miles away from the desert. The base was filled with scientists, guards, and machines that hummed through the night. Yet no one in the building could ignore the presence of the Jade mask. Even when sealed, it seemed to breathe with a faint green light that pulsed slowly, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Amir stood near the case, his hands behind his back. He had given the mask to the government only days earlier, yet he already missed the quiet mystery of the desert. Now the mask was under bright lamps, scanned by devices, and surrounded by charts. The room felt more like a cage than a place of discovery. Myra entered carrying a small screen filled with readings. "It is strange," she said. "The energy inside the mask is not like anything we know. It is not heat. It is not electricity. It is something we cannot name." She placed the screen on the table. The numbers kept changing, refusing to stay still. "It feels alive." Amir nodded. "I felt it when I touched it. This is not only an object. It is more than stone." The scientists agreed. They had scanned the Jade mask with every tool they had. X-rays showed shifting patterns inside the crystal. The lines moved as if they were flowing rivers frozen in stone. When sound waves were used, the mask gave back whispers that no one could explain. Some thought it was broken echoes of voices, but Myra swore she heard words hidden in the noise. At night, when the base grew quiet, strange things happened. Lights flickered in the halls. Screens showed stars that did not match the sky above Earth. Doors opened on their own. The guards whispered among themselves, saying the mask was cursed. But Amir felt no curse. He felt only that the mask was trying to be heard. One night, Amir dreamed again. He saw a wide sky filled with stars brighter than any desert night. He stood on a hill of stone, and around him were people wearing jade masks like the one in the case. They lifted their hands to the heavens, and from the stars came ships of light. A voice spoke in the dream, calm but heavy with age. It said only two words, "Lost home." Amir woke with sweat on his forehead. He looked around the dark room of the base. Outside, the wind blew against the windows, but the mask glowed faintly even through its case. He whispered to himself, "Home. What does it mean?" The next day, Myra showed him new images. The carvings on the mask were not only decorations. They were a map. She had compared the patterns to star charts. "Look," she said, pointing at the lines. "These are constellations. But they do not match our sky today. They match the sky from thousands of years ago. Someone carved this mask when the stars were in different places." Amir leaned closer. His heart quickened. Then it is not only a mask. It is a message from time. A memory of the sky. Myra nodded. It could be older than we ever thought possible. Their discovery was recorded, and soon the leaders of the base grew nervous. If the mask carried such strange knowledge, others might come to claim it. Guards doubled around the case. Orders were given to move the artifact to a stronger facility. Amir felt uneasy. He had found the mask as a seeker of truth, but now it was becoming a prize of power. That evening, a storm rose over the desert. The wind howled and sand blew against the windows. Inside the base, the mask began to shine brighter. Its green glow filled the room until shadows danced on every wall. The machines crackled. Alarms beeped. Myra rushed in, covering her face from the glare. "The mask is doing this," she shouted. "It is sending out energy." Amir placed his hand on the glass case. The mask pulsed once more, and for a brief moment, he saw not the base, but endless tunnels of light stretching across the universe. He felt pulled, as if the mask was calling to something far away. Then the glow faded, and the machines went silent again. No one noticed that far above Earth, in the dark of space, a shadow moved. A ship unlike any human craft had awakened. It had felt the signal. It turned its path toward Earth, slow but steady, like a predator finding its prey. Back in the base, the scientists argued about what had just happened. Some wanted to lock the mask away forever. Others wanted to study it more deeply. Amir remained silent, staring at the glass case. In his heart, he knew the mask had not finished speaking. It was only beginning. Far above the blue planet, the shadow ship drifted into the solar system. It was larger than any human vessel, yet it made no sound, no spark of light. Its surface was smooth and black, as if it were carved from night itself. The ship did not circle the planets like a traveler. It moved straight, with purpose, as if it already knew its destination. On Earth, no one yet knew the danger drawing near. The research base still held the Jade mask under heavy guard. Scientists continued their work, recording numbers and images that refused to stay the same. Myra barely slept, her eyes fixed on the strange patterns inside the mask. Amir, too, could not rest. He walked the halls each night, listening to the whispers in his dreams that called Earth the lost home. 2 days after the storm, the first sign came. Satellites high above Earth caught sight of the black ship moving near the outer edge of the system. At first, the images were unclear. Some thought it was an asteroid. But then the shape grew sharper. It was no rock. It was built. It was alive with hidden power. The news reached the leaders of the base. They held secret meetings, speaking in quiet voices. Some argued it must be a trick of light. Others feared it was real, and if real, it was drawn by the signal of the mask. That night, Myra found Amir standing by the case again. His eyes were fixed on the glowing Jade. "It is coming, isn't it?" she asked. Amir nodded slowly. The mask called, and something heard. Now it comes to answer. By the next day, the ship entered the orbit of Earth. People in the base watched with wide eyes as reports filled the screens. The shadow vessel did not speak, did not signal, did not turn. It descended through the atmosphere and vanished from the skies, hidden by clouds. Radar showed its path straight toward the desert where the ruins lay buried. Amir felt his chest tighten. "It is not the mask they search for," he said. "It is the place it came from." At the ruins, the air grew heavy. A deep hum rolled through the sand, and the ground trembled. From the shadow ship, shapes began to emerge. They were tall figures clad in smooth armor, black as stone. They had no faces, only a blank surface where eyes should be. In their hands were rods that shone with cold light. Step by step, they walked across the desert, silent as shadows. The local people fled, whispering prayers as they saw the strangers. Soldiers were sent to the area, but they kept their distance. No one had seen beings like these before. They moved with one mind, as if tied together by unseen threads. Inside the research base, panic rose. The leaders wanted the mask moved at once. But Amir stood firm. If we take it from here, they will follow. If we run, they will hunt. The mask is the key, and we must learn what it means before we give it away. Myra agreed, though her voice shook. They are not here for peace. Look at how they march. They search, not with eyes, but with purpose. They want to claim what was never theirs. As the armored beings searched the sands, they found the entrance the explorers had opened. They walked into the chamber where once the mask had rested. They touched the carvings on the wall, scanning them with their rods. When they found the pedestal empty, they raised their heads, as if listening to the sky. Then, without a word, they turned, scanning outward for signs of human movement. The desert wind blew hard, carrying sand across the ruins. The soldiers hiding nearby reported what they saw. The armored beings were not lost. They were hunters. Their movements showed anger, not confusion. Amir listened to the reports with a heavy heart. It begins now, he whispered. The mask is not only history. It is a beacon. We have been found. That evening, the black ship remained above the desert like a dark mountain in the sky. Lights flashed from its underside, sweeping across the sand like search beams. The ruins glowed under the strange rays, as if the ship was peeling back time itself. Myra sat beside Amir, her face pale but steady. What do we do when they come here? She asked. Amir looked at the mask inside its glass case. Its green light pulsed once, then again, like a heart beating faster. We stand, he said. We learn the truth before they take it from us. Far away, the armored beings began moving again, this time toward the research base. Their silent march cut across the desert under the moon. The ground trembled with each step. Above them, the shadow ship drifted closer, its dark shape blocking the stars. The night felt heavy with silence, as if the world itself held its breath. The visitors had arrived, and Earth would never be the same again. The desert sky burned red with the rising sun. Golden light spread across the sand, but the beauty of the morning could not hide the shadow that hung above the land. The great black ship hovered in silence, its dark body covering the ruins like a giant hand. On the ground, the armored beings moved forward, step by step, leaving deep marks in the sand. They were marching toward the research base where the Jade mask rested. Inside the base, alarms echoed. Soldiers rushed to the walls and raised their weapons. Scientists ran through the halls, gathering their records and machines. Amir stood near the glass case, his eyes locked on the mask. Its green glow pulsed faster than before, as if it could feel the approach of the armored strangers. Myra entered the room, holding a pack filled with tools. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. They are coming, she said. We must move now. If they reach the base, they will take the mask. Amir shook his head. If we run, they will follow. If we hide, they will search until they find us. The mask led us to the ruins. It will lead us again. Before Myra could answer, the ground shook. A beam of cold light cut through the air and struck the wall of the base. The stone cracked and broke apart, throwing dust into the halls. The armored beings had begun their attack. Soldiers fired back, their weapons flashing, but the beams of light from the strangers cut through stone and steel alike. The battle spread quickly. The desert echoed with sound as humans and shadows clashed. Yet the armored beings did not shout or speak. They moved with silent force, their rods firing streams of light that burned through everything in their path. Amir and Myra rushed through the halls, carrying the mask between them. The green glow lit their path, showing cracks in the walls and fallen stones. Behind them, shouts filled the base as soldiers fought to hold back the attackers. When they reached the outer gate, the sandstorm of battle surrounded them. Soldiers hid behind broken vehicles, firing at the advancing shadows. The air was filled with smoke and dust. Yet even in the chaos, the mask pulsed brighter, casting green light across the ground. Amir stopped, his breath heavy. "Look," he said, pointing at the sand beneath them. The glow of the mask revealed shapes hidden under the dust lines, forming a path that led away from the base, back toward the ruins. Myra's eyes widened. "It is showing us the way. The ruins still hold more secrets." With courage, the two ran through the battlefield, following the glowing lines. The armored beings noticed and turned toward them, beams of light cutting the ground at their feet. But the soldiers, though outmatched, stood in their way. They fired, shouted, and threw smoke grenades, slowing the advance of the silent hunters. Amir and Myra reached the ruins as the sun climbed higher. The sand shimmered, and the mask pulsed with such power that the stones of the old chamber began to move. A low rumble shook the desert. The ground split, and from beneath rose a hidden passage, dark and wide, leading deep under the sands. The armored beings reached the ruins at the same time. They raised their rods, ready to strike. Amir lifted the mask high. For a moment, green light burst outward, filling the chamber and forcing the shadows back. Their armor cracked under the glow, and they stepped away, shielding themselves. "Go," Amir shouted. Myra held his arm, pulling him toward the newly opened passage. Together they rushed inside as the ground sealed behind them. The darkness swallowed them, broken only by the jade glow. The air was cool, and the silence deep. The passage sloped downward, leading into the unknown. Their hearts pounded, but they felt a strange safety here, as if the mask had guided them to a place where the shadows could not follow. Above, the battle still raged. Soldiers fought bravely, though their weapons were weak against the strangers. Yet their courage was not wasted. Every moment they stood gave Amir and Myra more time to move deeper into the earth. Inside the tunnel, carvings lined the walls. They were brighter than those in the first chamber. They showed not only stars but also humans standing beside great machines. Ships sailed between planets, and masked figures guarded gateways of light. Myra touched the wall, her hand trembling. "These are not stories," she whispered. "They are memories. Our kind was once among the stars." Amir held the mask close, its glow painting their faces green. "Then the strangers above are not the first. They are enemies from that time. They came once before. And now they have returned." The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, larger than anything they had seen before. Statues lined the walls, each wearing jade masks, each holding weapons of stone. At the far end was a sealed door, carved with the same lines that glowed on the mask. Amir and Myra stood in awe. They had left a battle above, but here they had found a secret below. The clash at the ruins had only begun, and the true heart of the tomb was waiting to be opened. The air inside the hidden chamber was cool and heavy. Dust floated in the light of the jade mask as Amir and Myra stepped forward with slow, careful steps. Their hearts still raced from the battle above, but down here, there was no sound of weapons, no echo of war. Only silence and the weight of forgotten time surrounded them. The chamber stretched wider than any hall they had seen before. Its ceiling rose high like the inside of a mountain, and the walls glowed faintly with patterns of stars. Lines of light ran across the stone, forming maps of constellations and great arcs of travel between them. It was as if the chamber itself was a book, telling a story written in the language of the sky. Statues lined the walls, each carved from stone yet filled with detail that made them seem alive. Every statue wore a jade mask, their hollow eyes staring outward. They held weapons shaped like spears, staffs, and shields, all pointing downward as if standing guard even in stillness. Myra walked closer, brushing dust from one of the statues. "They look like us," she whispered. "But older. Stronger. As if they were built to protect something sacred." Amir raised the mask in his hands. Its glow spread across the chamber, and as the green light touched the carvings, they lit up brighter. The walls now showed not only stars but also humans walking among them. Some rode ships shaped like arrows, crossing from one world to another. Others stood beside tall beings of strange form, working as allies. Then the story darkened. Images showed battles against armored shadows like the ones now attacking the desert above. Flames and falling ships covered the sky. At last, the carvings showed masked figures returning to Earth, carrying secrets with them into the deep sand. Myra's breath caught in her throat. This is a record. A memory of what happened long ago. Humans were among the stars. Then came war, and they returned here. They built this tomb to guard the truth. Amir nodded, his voice low. And the mask is the key. Without it, the tomb would stay silent forever. At the far end of the chamber stood a great stone door. Unlike the rest of the walls, it did not glow. Instead, it was dark and sealed with symbols carved into its surface. Amir felt drawn to it. Step by step, he approached and lifted the jade mask. The lines on the door matched perfectly with the lines on the mask. As the mask neared the door, the ground trembled. The statues seemed to shiver, as though awakening. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the air grew warmer. Myra's hand gripped Amir's arm. "Are we ready to see what is inside?" Amir looked at her, then back at the glowing door. "We must be. If we do not open it, the strangers above will. And if they claim what is hidden, Earth will fall." He pressed the mask against the stone. The symbols lit up in green fire, one by one, until the whole door glowed like a rising sun. Slowly, with a grinding sound, the door slid open, revealing darkness within. A wave of cool air rushed out, carrying the smell of age and stillness. Inside was another chamber, smaller but more powerful in its presence. Along the walls stood rows of pods made of crystal and stone. Each pod held a figure that looked human, yet not the same. Their features were sharper, their bodies stronger, and each one wore a faint outline of a jade mask across the face. They were not statues. They were sleeping. Myra stepped closer, her voice shaking. "These are not carvings. They are people. They are waiting." Amir's chest tightened. He had dreamed of masked figures before, but to see them here, resting in silence, made him tremble. "They are guardians," he said softly. "Left behind to protect this place until the time was right." In the center of the chamber stood a single pod larger than the rest. Unlike the others, it glowed faintly, its crystal surface shimmering with light. As Amir and Myra approached, the glow grew brighter. Cracks spread across the crystal, and with a sound like breaking glass, it opened. Inside lay a figure tall and calm, wearing robes of faded color. The figure's eyes opened slowly, glowing for a moment before settling into deep human brown. He looked at Amir and Myra with quiet understanding. When he spoke, his voice was strange, but the words shifted until they became clear. "You have opened the tomb," he said. "You carry the mask. The time has come." Myra stepped back, stunned. Amir held the mask tightly. "Who are you?" he asked. The figure rose from the pod, his movements smooth though heavy with age. "We are the Guardians," he said. "When the war burned the stars, some of us returned to Earth. We slept, waiting for the day when the mask would be lifted again. The strangers above are not new. They are the old enemy. They have come to finish what was once begun." The chamber seemed to pulse with his words. Myra's fear turned into wonder. "Then this tomb is not only a grave. It is a fortress. And you are not only memory. You are alive." The Guardian nodded. "Alive, but weakened. We cannot stand alone. The mask shows you, and now you must decide. Will Earth hide again, or will it rise to face the stars?" Amir looked at the mask in his hands. Its glow spread across his skin, warm and heavy with meaning. He felt the weight of history and the call of the future. Above them, the enemy waited, but here below, a choice had been placed in his hands. The secrets beneath the sands had been revealed, and they would change everything. The chamber was quiet except for the soft hum of the jade mask in Amir's hands. The Guardian who had awakened from the pod stood tall, his presence calm yet commanding. Myra could not stop staring at the rows of sleeping figures. They were human-like but stronger, more perfect, as if time itself had shaped them differently. The air smelled of stone and age, but also of power, of something waiting to move again. Amir felt the weight of the moment. He had never touched anything so alive. The mask pulsed in his hands, sending waves of light across the chamber. The walls glowed brighter, illuminating the carvings of stars, ships, and humans standing beside beings of strange form. The message of the tomb was clear: this place had once been a gateway to the stars, and now it could awaken once more. The Guardian spoke again. "They are called the Shadows. The armored beings above are their soldiers. Long ago, they tried to claim Earth's knowledge and the mask. We stopped them once, but the war drove us into slumber. Now they have returned to finish what was begun." Myra stepped closer to the rows of pods. Her fingers brushed one crystal surface. "Can they wake? Can they fight?" The Guardian nodded. "With the mask, yes. It will awaken their strength. But it cannot be done all at once. We must choose who rises first." Amir looked at the mask, then back at the Guardian. "Then we must hurry. The shadows are already above the ruins, moving closer to the desert where the mask was found." The Guardian raised his hands, palms glowing faintly. He chanted words that felt old yet familiar. The mask responded, its light spreading through the chamber. Slowly, one pod at the center began to shine. The crystal cracked, and a figure stepped out. He was tall, with broad shoulders and eyes like polished amber. His movements were smooth but deliberate, as if he had slept for centuries and now remembered every skill he once had. "I am Talon," the figure said. His voice was deep, yet calm, carrying the weight of time. "I am the first to rise. Together we will face them." Amir handed him the mask. As Talon took it, the green glow spread across his body. His presence seemed to fill the chamber. Myra felt a shiver of awe. "He is powerful," she whispered. "More than any human should be." The Guardian stepped forward. "Not just powerful. He carries the wisdom of our kind. He will guide Earth if humans are willing to fight alongside him." Amir nodded. "Then we fight. Tell us what we must do." The pods around them began to glow faintly, one by one. Some cracks appeared, showing the forms of more figures waking. The room hummed with energy, each awakening figure breathing as if drawing the first air after centuries of sleep. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the green of the mask. Myra's heart raced with excitement and fear. The tomb was alive, and it was ready to defend itself. Outside, the desert trembled. The armored beings above sensed the change. Their rods of light swept across the ruins as if searching for the source of the awakening. Soldiers and explorers above fought desperately, but the ground shook more with every pulse of the mask's energy. Talon turned to Amir and Myra. "We must move quickly. The tomb's protection is not enough above ground. The shadows will not wait. They have the power to destroy, but we have the wisdom to fight." Amir swallowed. "Then we take the fight to them. Here or above, we cannot let them claim the mask." The newly awakened guardians formed a circle, their bodies glowing with green energy from the mask. They moved with purpose, stepping toward the tunnel that led to the ruins above. Each figure carried a weapon or tool of power from their time, made to fight the shadows and protect Earth. Myra followed Amir, clutching a small device from the base. It could record, analyze, and assist. She felt the presence of something greater than her imagination. The tomb had chosen humans to be part of its defense. As they neared the tunnel, the first rays of dawn broke across the desert. Light met shadow in a slow collision. Above, the armored beings hesitated as the ground shone with the awakening power of the tomb. The air crackled with energy. The humans and guardians below felt it, a warning and a promise at the same time. Talon looked at Amir. "Once we reach the surface, the real battle begins. They are strong, but together we are stronger. The tomb has prepared us, and now it will fight through us." Amir gripped the jade mask. "Then let it guide us. Earth will rise again." Myra felt her heart beat faster as she followed. They began their ascent from the tomb toward the ruins above. The guardians moved like shadows of light, ready to face the enemies who had returned after centuries. The mask pulsed in Amir's hands, connecting the past with the present, calling forth courage, wisdom, and strength. The desert above waited, and the shadows were ready to strike. But below, the tomb had awakened, and with it, the defenders of Earth were ready to rise. The desert was alive with tension. The black ship still hovered above the ruins, casting a dark shadow over the sand. The armored beings had gathered, their rods of light ready, their movements silent and precise. They knew the humans had discovered the tomb, and they came to claim it. Yet they did not expect what awaited them. From the depths of the tomb, Amir, Myra, and the awakened guardians emerged. Talon led the way, carrying the jade mask. His presence shone with green light that stretched across the desert, illuminating the ruins and casting long shadows. Behind him, the other guardians moved like statues of light, their bodies glowing and weapons ready. Humans from the research base followed, armed not just with machines but with courage and determination. Amir felt his heart pound. He had seen battles before, but never like this. Above him, the sky was filled with the dark shape of the ship. Below, the armored beings were poised to strike. Between them stood humans and guardians, standing together for the first time in centuries. Talon raised his hand. The mask pulsed in his grasp, sending waves of energy across the battlefield. The armored beings froze for a moment, sensing the power. Then the fight began. The first clash was sudden. Beams of light shot across the sand, and the guardians moved with skill and precision. Talon struck the ground with the mask, and a wave of green energy knocked the shadows backward. Soldiers and humans advanced, using the guardians' strength to defend themselves. Every move was coordinated, every step precise. Myra ran beside Amir, using her devices to track the movements of the enemy. "They are fast," she shouted, "but we can outsmart them." Amir nodded, dodging a beam that burned a trench into the sand. Together, they guided the humans, leading small groups to strike weak points in the enemy's formation. The Guardians fought like legends. Each one wielded a weapon of the past, yet moved with modern skill. One Guardian lifted a staff and swung it through the air, creating a shield of energy that deflected the beams aimed at the humans. Another Guardian summoned a pulse of light from the sand, knocking several armored beings backward. Talon himself struck with the Jade mask, the glow spreading outward and binding the shadows' power, slowing them with every strike. Amir realized something. The armored beings were not invincible. They had strength, but they lacked the courage and unity of the humans. "We fight together," he shouted. "We will not let them take what is ours." The humans responded. They ran, dodged, and used their tools in clever ways. Some threw nets and ropes to block the rods of light. Others guided the Guardians, helping them strike precisely. Even though the armored beings were stronger, they were not prepared for teamwork, determination, and courage combined. Above, the black ship pulsed with energy. The shadows looked up, sensing reinforcement from the craft. Talon lifted the mask higher. Green light erupted across the desert, filling every corner of the battlefield. The shadows screamed in a strange, silent way as the power of the tomb reached them. The fight reached its peak near the ruins. Sand flew into the air, beams of light crossed in every direction, and the sound of battle echoed like thunder. Then, as the humans and Guardians pressed forward, the shadows began to falter. Their rods shattered, their movements slowed. Talon struck once more with the mask, releasing a pulse that spread across the desert, binding the enemy's strength and forcing them to retreat. Amir and Myra watched as the shadows fell back. The black ship lifted slightly, as if uncertain, then slowly began to move away. The desert was quiet again, except for the hum of the mask and the heavy breathing of the humans and Guardians. Talon lowered the mask. Its green glow dimmed but did not disappear. He looked at Amir and Myra, a faint smile on his face. "The battle is won, for now," he said. "But the Guardians and humans must remain vigilant. The knowledge of the tomb and the mask is too powerful to be left unguarded." Amir stepped forward. "We will protect it," he said. "Not for power, but for Earth. For the future." Myra nodded. "We have learned courage, and we have learned unity. We are not alone anymore. The Guardians are with us, and together, we can rise." The desert sun rose higher, turning the sand golden. The ruins, once a place of mystery and fear, now felt alive with hope. The tomb had awakened, the Guardians had returned, and humans had proven that their courage could rival the greatest power in the universe. As the group looked toward the horizon, the black ship disappeared beyond the edge of the desert. Earth was safe, for now. The mask rested in Amir's hands, a reminder of the past and a guide for the future. Myra smiled. "We did it. We defended Earth." Talon nodded. "Yes, but remember, the stars are wide, and our enemies are patient. One day, humanity will rise to the stars again, stronger than ever." Amir held the mask close, feeling its weight and its promise. He looked up at the sky filled with stars. For the first time, he felt a connection to the past, the present, and the future. Humans were not only survivors. They were guardians of hope, protectors of knowledge, and warriors capable of standing against the darkness. The desert was quiet now. The sun shone on the ruins. and for the first time in centuries, the tomb and its secrets were safe in the hands of those who understood its true meaning. Earth had risen, and humanity had stood. The story of the Jade Mask tomb was no longer only history. It was the beginning of a new journey.